Well, hello again, everyone. Thanks for clicking on me again. In recent months, I've been so busy confronting the free grace fools and the once saved, always saved saboteurs that I've completely neglected my duty to abuse the Calvin freaks, uh, which I apologize for. Because the Calvin freaks, they're actually a much bigger problem than the free grace fools. I mean, free grace is a really fringe movement, but Calvitardism has been plaguing the body of Christ for centuries. Now, for those of you out there who really don't follow this stuff that close, you don't know who John Calvin was or Jean Calvin was. Well, this was a French lawyer from the first half of the 16th century who became a Protestant and moved to Geneva, Switzerland, and eventually ruled that city with an iron hand. This Christian Taliban enforced Old Testament laws on the local population. And he basically became the Pope of Geneva, Switzerland, for the time he was there. So if you didn't show up for church on Sunday, you were in the stocks on Monday. He had adulterers put to death, heretics were put to death. I mean, this guy, he made the Prophet Muhammad look like Santa Claus by comparison. And yet we have a huge swath of modern day evangelicalism believe that God used this man to tell the body of Christ the way to salvation. And this way to salvation, they believe, is that God picked a relative handful of, shall we call them, cosmic lottery winners. He picked a relative handful for them to go to heaven and everybody else to go to his eternal torture chambers. Now, the people that he picked were not picked because they were better than anybody else, simply because he's God and he can do whatever he wants. And so he picked something less than 1% of the total world population, something significantly less, I might add. And this is supposed to glorify him. What he does was he puts in their mind the thoughts he wants them to think, like beliefs about reality, that Jesus is the Son of God who paid the sin penalty for those who didn't deserve it. So if God chose you to believe that, well, you're going to heaven. And everybody else, like your despised neighbor, they're going, you know where, right? So again, we have this huge swath of evangelicalism who actually believes this incredibly bizarre, warped version of Christianity, that they were chosen for heaven and their despised neighbor was chosen for hell. So, and there's no point arguing with them about this. Jesus couldn't talk them out of this. The devil knew that they would love such a flattering gospel that they were chosen for heaven, and their relatives that they can't stand. Well, I thought today, just for fun, I would pose this thought experiment for my friends, the Calvin freaks. And they, of course, are not going to answer it. They're not going to engage with it because they can pretty much, even though they're not the sharpest knives in the drawer, most of them can figure out what the next question will be if they answer the question of this thought experiment. So let me put it out there anyway. Imagine, if you will, President Brandon would like to rehabilitate his image. And so we have approximately 4,200 Americans on death row here, or maybe, I'm sorry, 2,400 Americans. That's right. I read 2,400 Americans are on death row waiting for the lethal injection. Imagine President Brandon decides, well, he's going to take 50 of them, pull their names out of a hat, one for each state, and he's going to give them full pardons. And not just full pardons, he's going to give them $1 billion each, tax-free. Now the rest, the other 2,350, they gotta get that lethal injection. Sorry. So my my question to my Calvin-retarded friends, which you're going to pretend you didn't see, my question to you is this a merciful and just way for President Brandon to exercise his sovereign discretion? Does it glorify him? Yes or no? Once again, President Brandon chooses 50 out of the hat, one for each state, gives them full pardons and $1 billion cash free. The rest, they got to get the lethal injection. Is this a merciful and just way for President Brandon to exercise his sovereign discretion? And does it bring him glory, or does it bring him infamy? Now, I don't expect you to answer me, because you know what would happen next if you actually answered my question. So you're not going to answer me. What you're going to do, if you do anything at all, is you're going to say that this analogy has absolutely nothing to do with your theory of salvation. Fine, let's stipulate it doesn't. Now go ahead and answer the question anyway. Answer the question. Did it bring President Brandon glory? You won't answer the question, will you? And no one needs to fast and pray to understand why you won't answer me. Have a nice evening, elect ones.